Welcome back, explorers. It's your guide Brian leading our safari group southward from the Sahel into wetter grasslands. Shh! If we're quiet enough, you might even spot a rhinoceros. Or two. We're in coastal West Africa, home to the first female head of state on the continent, the largest African country, the world's biggest Christian church, and over 70% of the world's cocoa plants. As we get going, make sure you've printed out this lesson's PDF so that you can follow along using either the graphic organizer or the scaffolded notes. By the end of today's lesson, you will be able to describe West Africa's coastal land and climate, its natural resources and main exports, explain the impacts of European colonization, and list some current challenges in the region. And keep those cameras ready because we'll likely spot some cool animals along the way. The many countries in coastal South Africa include Senegal, the Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and Nigeria. I know, that's a big list. So, while we've got our map on the screen, it's a great time to include these in the Coastal Nations section of your notes. See that icon there? When you see that, it's a great time to pause the video and capture your learning in the graphic organizer. If you're using the scaffolded notes instead, you'll be using the PDF all throughout. A brief history of the region involves the cooperation of farmers in Ghana banding together for protection around 400 CE. Within a century, this society developed into a larger kingdom with taxation and military. Ghana was later conquered in 1076 CE by larger kingdoms, including Mali, which gained wealth from trade, especially in the fabled Timbuktu, and Songhai, centered in Gao, an ancient city that still exists today. Trade of things like gold, salt, and diamonds has always defined the success of nations in the region. In fact, in the 1300s, Mansa Musa was arguably the richest man the world had ever known. He is remembered for going on Hajj, or a religious journey to Mecca. He brought over 60,000 people with him, paying for everything himself, spreading the word about Islam and Malian trade. The success of this region at various points in history has stemmed from the land and its resources, like the huge salt rocks these camels are carrying. Rivers dominating this region include the Senegal River, the Niger River, and the Volta River. Most countries in the region are able to grow food because of the nutrients deposited by the rivers close to the coast. Most coastal West Africans support themselves by growing rice, peanuts, cocoa, coconuts, or cotton. They bring these products to market to trade. But there are other resources in the region as well, including gold, iron, bauxite, copper, uranium, and diamonds. Even with more rainfall than Sahel nations, most people in the coastal nations live close to rivers, where trade is easiest. As you can see here, nations encompassing river deltas flowing out into the Gulf of Guinea have far more people than the rest of the region. Because of the abundance of natural resources and farmland, and its location on the coast close to Europe, West Africa was at the heart of the scramble for Africa, and was affected by colonization more than any other region in Africa. First, the Portuguese and Spanish, and later English and French companies exerted control of Africa, especially along the Gulf of Guinea. In addition to the fruits of the land, Europeans were also interested in human capital, buying over 12 million enslaved people, who had previously been captured as prisoners of war or imprisoned for various reasons. They were sent against their will on a grueling journey known as the Middle Passage across the Atlantic Ocean to work as laborers in the Americas, if they survived the trip. The removal of so many working people and community leaders disrupted the economy and culture of West Africa. The slave trade limited population and economic growth, setting West Africans back for centuries, while Europeans raced ahead. The height of colonial rule in the region was in the early 20th century, and decolonization occurred in the 1960s and 70s. Countries that formed since then have borders that are perpendicular to the sea, and typically have a major or minor river traveling through them into the Gulf of Guinea. Decolonization left a power void that many coastal nations have struggled to fill. Benin saw 6 coups between 1962 and 1973. The Ivory Coast has struggled since the mid-20th century with military coups, rigged elections, rebellions, and foreign intervention. Liberia was founded in 1847 as an independent state for freed American slaves, making it the oldest republic in Africa. But since the 1980s has seen corruption, civil war, and the withdrawal of international aid. Sierra Leone has suffered through coups, dictatorships, and civil war as well. This is, sadly, the norm for the region. Freedom House has most of these nations rated as partly free. There are glimmers of hope, however. Women are increasingly establishing economic cooperatives, running markets, starting their own small businesses, and accessing mobile banking, and expanding their traditional role in the economy in many of these regions. And infant mortality is on the decline as humanitarian organizations invest in healthcare for the region. Population growth is high, with an average of 2.75% year after year in the region, but as high as 9% in some cities. This makes Africa the youngest continent on Earth. Nigeria stands apart in West Africa. It is the largest country in Africa with a staggering population of 216 million people. This makes it the 6th largest country in the world by population, overtaking Brazil in 2022. It has twice the amount of land as California, but has 5 times as many people, accounting for a population density of 586 people per square mile. Nigeria has the highest GDP in Africa at $480 billion US, but a low GDP per capita by world standards at only $2,300 and only marginally better than the sub-Saharan African average of $1,500. It has the most varied climate in the region, with biomes ranging from swamps, tropical rainforests, and beaches to savannas and deserts, providing for a wide range of economic industries, from mining to farming to forestry and fishing. There are modern industries as well, such as Nollywood, Nigeria's growing film industry, which produced over 2,500 movies in 2020. The largest industry in Nigeria is oil, traditionally providing the lion's share of Nigeria's GDP. The country is divided culturally into northern and southern regions. The climate is different in these regions, as is the majority religion. Northern Nigerians are mostly Muslim, while southern Nigerians are mostly Christian. With 12 states adopting Sharia law, internal migration exaggerates religious segregation in the country. As does the influence of Boko Haram, a northern terrorist group that targets Christians and Westerners. For these reasons, political differences are tense, but a simple secession of the South won't necessarily solve the problem. Most southern communities are united against the politics of the North, but with over 500 recognized tribal territories in Nigeria, they aren't united about much else, and the political strife would likely continue even without the North. Oil prices tumbled in the 1980s and the fledgling country fell into disarray. The military took control of the government. It sold state-run businesses to private companies who kept prices and wages low. Many workers were fired. In their recovery, Nigerians are working for a more democratic future, promoting fair wages and a free market. The people hope to reduce their dependence on the oil industry by increasing agricultural productivity. There is, however, still a lot of corruption and a lot of power concentrated in the hands of the oil magnates. The Extend Yourself activity for this lesson prompts you to generate your own inquiry questions about challenges faced by West Africans because of the scramble for Africa. Use the space provided to brainstorm what you might want to research more about. This region is set to make some great strides in the 21st century. International investment and mobile banking are promoting economic growth, a longer life expectancy, and a trend toward democracy. We can't wait to see what's in store for this beautiful and bountiful region. And with that, we're off to another region of Africa. Until then, keep exploring.
Hey, hey.